In a garden, the willow stood on a dark, graceful and proud, its branches sweeping the ground. Soft and cool it made the breeze, life flourishing, people laughing. In summer, people gathered to sit within its shaded garden or pray. Poor Willow, Willow, strength of the garden, the pride of the people, it all came falling down. Beautiful but shallow, its roots couldn't hold. As a big wind blew, the willow bent, crooked and hollow, fell as the gusts came breaking in two.
Hello and welcome back. This is episode 4. Today's topic is writing in education. I didn't always like writing. It was difficult for me because I have a disability called dysgraphia, which makes it harder to organize and connect your thoughts into written words. It takes me longer to form language because words are not my first language. Kinesthetic energy is. Movement, the emotion and energy of people, the language of dance and sound. Kinesthetic energy is why we can watch ballet and our minds create a narrative without a word being spoken, or hear a story in music. The energy carries the emotions, images, and narrative. It takes longer to put these concepts into something as limited as static as language is. But I really wanted to be able to express myself in a way that people would understand. I wanted to be one of these complex, commanding, mysterious creatures people call writers, and so I kept at it until it became second nature. It's still difficult at times. I don't organize my words as well as I used to, but I don't believe that difficulty should mean you have to quit if you don't want to. Persistence is the key. Welcome to the Burnt Out Podcast. What interests me most about writing and storytelling is the narrative, narratology, or narrative theory, as it's called in academia. It's the study of the structure of stories, analysis of the elements and patterns used, what they mean, how they're used and perceived by the storyteller and the audience. I like to include studying why certain storytelling patterns are more popular than others in different cultures or amongst different demographics. To me, being a writer means to be able to take control of this knowledge of language to express your own ideas and events, linking your story to a much larger narrative that holds significant meaning, both personal, cultural, and intergenerational. Writing gives you the ability to express yourself and take control of your thoughts, to analyze them and the words and ideas of others, but that process isn't as accessible as people think. It might be surprising to people, but I didn't get into creative writing because I was interested in language or even English literature. If I could be speaking French, Spanish, or another more interesting language, I would, but language disabilities that make speaking, writing, thinking, and sequencing linguistics extremely hard are real. Very few writing classes discuss the act of writing from a disability perspective or acknowledge that people process language differently. I believe this does a disservice to those aspiring to learn how to use language for growth, self-awareness, and other personal development benefits. Something I've never seen or heard discussed in formal writing classes is neurodiversity and what type of thinking people have. Knowing how you think is the most important aspect of writing. It determines how you write and what you write about. Not everyone has an internal linguistic process inside. They may think in moving pictures with hypersensory details or in feelings and physical sensations with varying degrees of strong and bland emotions. Some people have hyper-phantasia and others aphantasia, various types of synesthesia, and many more cognitive differences that are inherent in how they experience the world. And you can have a combination of different thinking and processing styles that can both complement each other or make it harder to express yourself. Every process has its own set of advantages and disadvantages. For those with a non-linguistic process, this means that a large amount of your mental energy will go into translation of your ideas and feelings into words, choosing them carefully and sequencing them so that people understand. Scripting helps ease this cognitive burden in daily life, but it's to be avoided in creative writing, as it makes language very boring and inauthentic, like a commercial you've seen too many times. But what advantage you do have is an observation and sensory details, the ability to process the world slowly, immersed in the literal and physical. In the writing process, translating these details first creates a more vivid, emotional, and immersive experience for the reader, layers of detail that they can go back to and always find something new as they read. For linguistic processors, while speaking and writing might seem much more accessible, learning to slow down and observe the world and your inner process can be a challenge. Your writing can quickly become meaningless, fluff, hollow, without anything to ground it in reality or emotionally connect it to the reader. Learning to write in layers, like a painter, starting with dialogue or action, then filling in description and other details with each read through until everything is filled in, is an invaluable process that should be talked about in writing classes. I discovered this process on my own, but it would benefit everyone who writes. Building self-awareness of what type of thinker you are should be step one in beginning writing. The differences in language processing usually becomes apparent to students after various writing exercises. Some will find them harder than others. It's at this stage that without guidance and language to understand why they are struggling, many will give up, thinking they're just bad at writing, rather than learning how to work with their thinking style and translate their thoughts. The role of a teacher should be helping them find their translation style, explore what mediums are accessible to their process. And this brings us to the gifted writer to failed novelist pipeline. Writers discussing their processes isn't new. Before the internet and even now, the idea that you can follow writing advice like a recipe still persists. Many writing classes begin with a teacher passing out a handout of something by Stephen King or another author they admire, either a short story or some of his advice, and then expect everyone to replicate Stephen King. This is a red flag, and it has nothing to do with Stephen King, but rather the instructor's idea of what writing should be and how it's made. It's often a very narrow view. It doesn't take into account that they're asking you to replicate someone else's brain and nervous system, their very intimate psychological processes, way of thinking and feeling. I've always found it quietly offensive. Writing programs often try to replicate a style of writing rather than the skills required to write. The process itself is highly individual, so giving advice to others about finding creativity in creating routine is pointless. Developing practical skills that help you build on what you know about your language processing and translation style should be the next step. And this is where many writing programs go wrong. They generalize the process and create an environment of shame for people who don't operate in the way society thinks writers should. Everything is oriented for short story writers and novelists, with little exploration of other mediums. There's still this pervasive idea that everyone wants or should strive to be that best-selling writer who wrote the book that changed everything, whatever book that is. The novelist is billed as the only real kind of writer. They forget that there's poets out here, lyricists, scriptwriters, playwriters, comic writing, blog, and news writers. Different mediums use different types of linguistic processing, which can make it easier for some to translate themselves into one medium over another. But it can come with a certain level of shame if not supported correctly. As students learn more about themselves and gain more life experience, they slowly learn that maybe they're not a novelist. There's a particular skill set good novelists have, and if you don't have that, it can be very confusing to younger writers who were set up on that path. Are we even writers if we're not working on a novel? They ask. That can be a very hard idea to let go of. There's a variety of writing that just blends into the background of daily life. Being one of these writers isn't always as clear-cut of a path as novel writing seems, but once you realize what medium and style you thrive in, it's a heck of a lot more fun. There's nothing more tedious than trying to bash out something that's never going to come. So what if you don't have a book in you? Maybe you have a TV show or film idea, an opera or graphic novel. Maybe you work best collaboratively or in groups, riffing off each other's ideas. Maybe you're an essayist working in facts and opinions, or more of a poet, stringing along prose feels painful. You need short, spontaneous moments of intense feelings in order to feel alive. So flirt around with your craft. Try multiple mediums and see what suits you before deciding you're not creative or a writer. Sustainability is the only goal. Write however and whenever you can, in whatever way that's accessible to you. What matters is that you feel you have a future in this creative community. And that's my message for now. I have much more to cover on this topic in the coming episodes, so follow, like, and subscribe, and stay safe out there. This is Brooke from the Burnt Out Podcast.